Hi, welcome to this week's Dragonblade Authors Unplugged. I'm so excited. I've got a full house. I love having a full house. We've got Arden Conroy, Marie Higgins, Coventry, and Linda Rae Sande this week. Ladies, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks, Emily.
So since we have a full house, we're going to dive right into the books, and we're going to start with Linda's book, which is a Lion's Den book, and it's a loyalty of a lion.
Yes.
Linda, can you tell us about this one?
Sure. This is my third entry in the Lion's Den series and number 75. It's hard to believe the series has come along that far, but my book features Silver Fox. I've got
yum. Love those.
A spinster and Marquess, who is desperate for another wife. He loves to travel the world, and he did so with his first wife, and then she died in a horrible carriage accident. And so he's off to find another. And unfortunately, he has been left with a very pretty wiped out coffers because of his man of business having robbed him blind. And so he needs a rich wife, and he knows that Mrs. Dovelion can help him. So he's off to the matchmaker for that. Meanwhile, we have our heroine, whose father has recently died. Apollonia is a spinster. She's proud of it. She's been helping her father with his trading business all over the world. And she has inherited a lot of money. However, she's been unable to do anything about getting that money out of the bank, because back then in England, you had to do your banking with a male relative. And she doesn't have one other than a unscrupulous cousin. And she really doesn't want to involve him. He inherited the business, and she's not too happy about that. So she's desperate to find somebody, and they tell her, hey, if you get married, you'll have somebody to help you access your money. So she's off to Mrs. Dovelion to see if she can't arrange something like a marriage of convenience where she's robbed blind by a husband. So that's where we're at in that story.
Yeah, that sounds like a lovely, straightforward marriage of convenience story. I love those. I love those. I like the ones where they're together and locked in, and then they fall in love because somebody has to say they love you first. It's like, oh.
Yeah, so awesome. They get along great. It's just, of course, the cousin causes problems, and that thing about the money situation. I've had some people comment in. I did a takeover today in the Dragonblade published readers group, and I realized that maybe some people aren't familiar with banking laws, and women in England couldn't open their own bank account and do their own banking until 1975.
Mm-hmm.
France, they could do it back in 1881. And
oh my! Oh wow!
A woman in France could open her own account without her husband's permission, but England and even the United States have been way behind in that regard. So that was the reason why these women were kept. Why they had to have a male relative help them with banking.
Yeah, that always amazes me. And there's a difference between being able to and having the legal protection too. Because I know my mom couldn't get a credit card, but I know there are some women in that age that could. It's just like some banks would and some banks wouldn't. You didn't have the legal protection to actually be able to be sure that you could, from Alabama to Washington.
Right.
Until the 70s. Ugh. Just not that long. That is not long enough ago.
That's true.
Well, I love a good marriage of convenience, and I love a good Lion's Den. We're actually going to do a Lion's Den Kickstarter. I'm so excited about this. In the fall for an anthology, and Catherine is writing Mrs. Dovelion's story as a special treat for Kickstarter backers. So I'll make sure everybody gets information about that when we've got it set up. But I'm really excited about that. So the next book that comes out this week is Arden's book, and it's A Lady's Guide to Scoundrels, and it's book 1 in a brand new series, The Harp and the Thistle. So I need to know why it's called The Harp and the Thistle too, and I'd love to know more about the book.
Okay, so this is an extra exciting one for me because this is also my debut. So I've been on pins and needles for months about this. So the story is the Harp and Thistle is a pub, and it is owned by the three McNabb brothers. They named the pub after their parents, who had unfortunate early deaths. The Harp is named after their mother. She was Irish. And the Thistle is named after their father, who was Scottish. All three of them are very happy with their lives, just as they are. Unfortunately, for Dante, Lady Vivian, who is the daughter of a duke, comes into his pub one night, and that just kind of destroys everything for everyone. So Lady Vivian is a spinster. She's kind of a recluse because her grandmother was an American heiress, and Queen Victoria did not like her because Prince Albert had his eye on her sometimes.
Oh.
So there's a little bit of drama there,
Oh,
and
that
because
is
of
good.
that, Queen Victoria is not a fan of Lady Vivian. So her debut was not a success, and she just kind of accepted that she'd be alone. Her grandmother passes and leaves her a fortune, which is very unexpected for the time. And this causes this huge hubbub with everybody in not just London, but England, because suddenly there's this unmarried woman with this exceptional fortune. So people just kind of go bananas over it, and men swarm her receiving room, hoping to charm her and win her hand in marriage. And she learns that her brother owes this debt to Dante. And she learns this because, like, right first in the beginning of the book, the police show up at the house, and it's kind of like, well, why are the police here? And she's kind of naive because she's been so sheltered. So her dad is like, the Duke, he says, I have to go find your brother. And she's like, okay, I'm going to come with. He doesn't really like it, but she goes anyway. And a lot kind of goes over her head, but she eventually finds out that her brother made this large wager that he lost against Dante, who is a pugilist. And so she offers to cover the debt later on when she learns about it. But because she realized that she knew her brother had a gambling problem, but she didn't know it was as bad as it was. And she realizes she has a terrible time of being able to tell when a man is a good man or a bad man. And she doesn't marry a bad man, because then that's a lifetime of heartache, right?
Yeah.
So she sees Dante and she's like, okay, this guy has to be like a huge scoundrel. He can help me. And he's like, all right, fine, I'll help you if you pay for the debt. And as they spend time together, things go against plan, and she ends up possibly falling for this man that she shouldn't fall for.
Oh, wow.
So,
oh, that sounds like so much fun. And so the rest of the setup for the rest of the series, do we get the rest of the brothers' story?
yes. So the two other brothers are the two other books, and you will see most of the main characters throughout all three books.
Oh yeah, I love it when we get to revisit, like when you get to see them after they're happy, and you get to see just little glimpses of their life as it's gone on. It's like, I love stories like that. Well, that sounds like so much fun, and the Irish Scottish thing is really interesting too. So
yeah,
very cool, very cool. Yeah. So the next book that came out this week is Carol's book, and it's Waiting for Love, and it's book book three.
Yes.
In the Tavistock Survivors League. Carol, can you tell us about this one?
Yeah, so this is Waiting for Love, and it's book 3 in the Tavistock Survivors League series. And this one is Olivia's story. Olivia is the youngest of the Tavistock siblings, and she's the only girl. So it's the tropes in this book are girl falls for her older brother's friend, which is one of my favorite tropes, and then a kind of clash of the classes, because Olivia is a earl's sister and the male main character is a commoner. So Olivia is getting ready to go to London for her first season, to debut and join the marriage mart and meet a man, do all the things she's supposed to do. And everybody's really excited about it because the brothers all, adore their little sister. So the only one who's not excited about it is Olivia. And Olivia's a homebody. She really doesn't want to have to marry and move away from everything and everybody that she's ever loved. But she's, dutiful, and she knows her family's all excited about it. So she kind of plays along and gets ready to go. But she has another reason for not wanting to go, and that's because her brother, the Earl, has just hired a new steward for their estate. And the steward is Mr. Benjamin Carroll. He has been away in Canada, working for the Hudson's Bay Company for the last several years. And he comes back with an adopted daughter who is his deceased business partner's daughter.
Oh, cool.
And he just wants to provide a stable environment for her and bring her up. However, years ago, Benjamin was a college friend of the two oldest brothers, and they would bring him home from time to time when school was on break. And he had met Olivia before, and Olivia was significantly younger, and she just got a huge crush on him. And as they got a little bit older, when she turned 14, she threw herself at him, and he was appalled, and he left. And that is one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why he went to Canada, was kind of flee Olivia. So now he's back. He notices, or they spend a lot of time together, and he realizes she's not a little girl anymore, and she realizes that she's not over him. And so we get to see the two of them kind of come to grips with the fact that the relationship between them is impossible, but the Taverstons always make the impossible possible. So
that is a very heavy lift, though.
Yeah.
And kind of a modified brother's best friend, not a best friend, but that kind of older male figure that you have the crush on.
So yeah, yep.
Very cool. Is this the last book in the series, or are there more after this one?
There's one more. There's one more sibling. That is Crispin, who's the second oldest brother. He's an army man. He's off fighting Napoleon, and he kind of pops in and out throughout the 3 books. He's kind of a little bit mysterious, kind of a rogue, but just absolutely devoted to the family. So the 4th book is going to be his story.
Oh, cool. Good family sagas. Those are always the lovely ones with the nice tight families.
So that's one that I like. I like it when the families all support each other, and you don't have the evil mother or the demanding father. I like it when they all get along.
Awesome. Well, so the last book to come out this week is Marie's book, and it's book 7 in the Worthington Legacy, and it's her brooding Duke.
So I have to tell you, when I first started this series, like a year ago, I called it the Worthington Legacy, because all the men in the first 5 books were, Worthington. And then Dragonblade came out with, we will publish some of your backlist books if they're related. I'm like, oh, heck, how many more can I get? And I did. I had several years ago, when I first started writing historical, I had started a Worthington, they were called Sons of Worthington, series. And so I got to add those backlist books to Worthington Legacy. So this is actually the 2nd book in the series from long ago that's now, out again. And so this one, he's the Duke, because he took over, of course, when his father died. And but it's still the 2nd book in the series, even though it's all about his brothers and cousins and whatnots, all related. But this one, he's had a sad life. So there's kind of a little bit more drama in it than some of my others. But it was only because his first wife, who's passed on, he, I think he found out right before she died that his twins may not be his kids. He didn't know.
Oh.
So it broke him. It broke him. It's like, I don't trust women. So he's just been on his own and playing, the single dad kind of thing, And then, so Louisa is the heroine, And she's had a really worse life. She's the daughter of a noble family. But when she was, I think I put her like at 10 or 12 years old. I can't really remember right now. But around that age, she was told by her friend's uncle that her family died in a fire. And so he was going to take her and she would be his ward. But as circumstances came around to it, he was kidnapping her and
Oh, the
yeah,
fiend.
turning her into a beggar or a thief or, and in fact, she was one of the better pickpockets, that he taught. And of course, all this time she thought, well, my family's dead. So the story starts out with her running into the man she thought she'd been, like I think it was her father or her brother's best friend or something. And she's like, whoa, And so she follows him home or follows him to her house that used to be her house and it's still standing. And she kind of peeks through the windows to make sure. But before she's actually could, let him know she's still alive, the gardener sees her and kicks her off out of so he kicks her out of the estate or out.
Oh no.
And so as she's leaving, and it's nighttime, and she's leaving, a carriage almost runs her over. And of course, it knocks into her and she tumbles down. Well, it just happens to be Trevor, who is the Duke. He's coming home from a stupid party that his mom tried to get him to go, find a woman and kind of, that kind of. So he, of course, says, oh my gosh, I ran over this lady. So he takes her to his house and, orders his servants and gets the doctor there. Well, when she finally comes to and they wash her up, she's, cut and bruised all over, but she has no memory.
Oh no. Come on, man.
Yeah, so of course he feels bad for her, and as she's starting to, gain her strength and stuff, he's thinking, well, when I found her, she was wearing worn clothes and dirty clothes. So, she's, her hair hadn't been washed in a month or whatever. So she's probably a beggar or whatever. So I will hire her to work in my house to be a maid. But every time he was like, hey, let's have you do a maid, and then she'd mess up on things. So then here comes the humor in my story. So everything he has her do, she kind of messes up funny. But the one thing she doesn't mess up on is getting connected with his children. And so they just love. So he thought, okay, I'm going to hire you as their governess, so we'll do it that way. And so, of course, she starts to, have feelings for him. He doesn't want to have feelings for her because he doesn't trust women. But of course, you know how that happens when you're in such close proximity, But yeah, there is a, like a mystery that goes on in this story. And it's, mainly how she was kidnapped and what's happened and so yeah, things like that. And of course then the kidnapper, she did leave his den of thieves or whatever you want to call it, and he finds her as the nanny, and so now he's making blackmail and threats and whatever that she better steal from the Duke or he's going to expose her and all this. So yeah, there's a lot of
All
that
kinds of
going
nefarious stuff.
on. There's a lot of going on, but there still is some humor in it. So, but yeah, I love these stories.
Sounds like a lot of fun. And that's the Sweet Dreams line, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's one of the things I love about Dragonblade is you can read at whatever heat level you like.
I
And they've got
know.
the different lines so that you can choose whatever you want in the moment too.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree.
Awesome. So we talked a little bit about tropes as we were going on. I was wondering, do you have favorite ones that you like to write in? Are they the same ones as the ones you like to read in? Do you get that kind of trope idea to begin with, or do the characters come to you first? How is it, ladies, that you figure out where your story starts and how to move through it?
For me, it's been a lot of second chance, a lot of old. I have a lot of readers who have told me it's okay to stories about 20-year-olds falling in love, but they would rather read about stories that they can relate to and that have characters closer in age to them. So lately, it seems like if I don't feature an older couple as the main character, I always have two romances in my books, then they'll be the second romance in a book.
Mhm.
And in this case, they're front and center. And then the second romance is a butler and her lady's maid. So.
Mhm.
But again, older characters.
Yeah. What about you, Arden? Do you have a favorite trope that you like to read or one that you like to write in particular?
I really like dramatic, scarred heroes. I do like broody heroines or heroes. And I really do think it's fun when they are up against someone who is just completely opposite from them, but somehow they're also perfect for each other. The begrudgingly falling in love, grumpy person with this, the sunshine, happy go lucky, funny person. I do enjoy that. I did notice that while I have two broody, scarred heroes in my story, I also have a very himbo-y himbo. So I had a lot of fun writing that. So I'm really excited for everybody to see all three of them.
Yeah. Awesome. What about you, Carol?
Well, I do like the trope of the falling for brother's friend. I like this book has both of them, but I like the clashing of the classes too. I like to see them kind of stepping across those boundaries and getting away with it. I think my heroines, I always like them to be smart and kind of pushing against the expectations of society. And then for my heroes, they're all over the map. I love them all, but my favorite is kind of that the rogue that actually is not a rogue and who actually who's a good guy, but kind of pretends to be a bad guy. So,
What about you, Marie?
I don't originally set out to say, okay, I'm going to write a second chance or, brother's best friend, don't date him kind of thing. I don't set out to. I just, ask my characters, okay, what you guys want to do? And then they're the ones that choose it. So yeah, it's like, so the book number 6 was they had known each other when they were younger. And so, so that they had that rivalry kind of going around. And then, of course, this book, number 7, is, of course, second chances, because now they're both given second chances. So, but yeah, I write whatever, my characters want me to write. So.
Do you get the characters first, or do you get the plot first? Which works out in your head? Characters. Do you get both of them at the same time, or do you get one stronger and then have to figure out who they go with?
Yeah, so I'm generally not a plotter. There's been a couple of books I've really had to plot because of the mystery in it. But yeah, the pantster in me, it's like, okay, who's this gorgeous guy? Okay, what's your problem? And then who's this and what's your problem? Okay, now how are we going to solve it? What conflicts are going to be, and then that's where the story starts to form. So.
Linda, do you get characters first or plot?
Usually it's the now because I built this huge world that I write in for my other books, and so it's like I get to pick the next ones, and now I'm working on the second generation. So it's like, which kids get to get their second chances, and then which parents need a kick in the butt back into the bedroom, or maybe they're widowed or widower need to get to find a new mate in life. And so I'm having so much fun at working through all these people. And I'm doing a grand tour series right now too. So the second book in the grand tour series released a couple of weeks ago, and I have 2 more books in that series to go. So I'm marrying off the kids of the people that were in the first 8 books at this point.
Fun. Arden, what about you? Are you characters or plot?
Definitely characters. I like to envision these people, give them some personalities, some background information, and then I just kind of mesh them together and figure out what would these people really be uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
And how do I put them in there? And sometimes when I'm planning a character, I'll think of different scenarios that would never be in a story, just like how they would react if, I don't know, something happened. And a lot of times that might actually end up being a scene in a book for them. Or there's been times where it actually turned into the main plot of the book. But yeah, I definitely start with characters.
I think that's, like that idea of picturing how they would react is often like a really good spark for how to get things moving. Carol, what about you?
It's characters also. I tend to start with kind of a scene that I have in my head, and the characters kind of come alive in that scene. And it's usually either the point where they realize they're in love, or it's the breakup, and then kind of work around that. And then I have to kind of, I'm not really a plotter per se, but I kind of work towards that event, that scene. Sometimes that scene doesn't end up remaining in the book, but that's kind of where I have in my head when I get started.
Well, that makes sense. Is anybody a non-linear writer? Does anybody write scenes out of order, or do you all just go from the beginning the whole way through? Are you, Linda?
Oh my gosh. Write the end of a book first, and then I go back and
Bet you eat the icing off your cupcakes first too, don't you?
How do you do that?
Right, all over the place. And then I did write a few books. Like, I think I did this Lion's Den book in order, which is kind of rare, but it just kind of worked out. I had outlined it, so I just wrote it that way. But other books that sometimes I know more about something, and if I'm ready to write and I don't want to have to stop and do research, I'll do the stuff I know, and that might fall in the middle. And in fact, the book I'm working on now, it takes place in Egypt. I'm doing that all the time. And then I have to go in and fill in between major scenes.
Yeah. Does anybody else do that, or is everybody else linear?
I think I get lost.
Yeah.
I had to jump all over.
I'll often use like the carrot and the stick kind of thing. If there's a scene I really want to write that I have in my head, but it's not happening yet, then I force myself to write up to it. So it's so I still stay linear, but I know where I'm heading to that scene I really want to write.
Yeah, my best writer, but he writes out of order, and I don't even understand. I don't even understand how you think about it that way.
You just think about it like scenes. They're scenes that get all put together. So it's like, which scene do you feel like writing today? And so that's what I do.
Do you know by the end of the book where you're going for the next one usually?
I do. Well, like I said, I'll write the end first. I think a lot of people know what the ending of their book is going to be when they're writing it. And of course, I can always add an epilogue and things later. And so, yeah.
Do the rest of you have some idea of where you're going by the time you get to the end of the book? What your next project will be?
Yeah, usually one of my other characters, either it's the best friend or the, of the hero, or the maid, or, or whatever, they usually like to step in and make themselves notice, and do some good things or bad things or whatever. By the end of the story, it's like, okay, fine, I'll give you a story.
You're gonna keep talking about it,
I know. Yeah, just shut up. Let me finish this one.
Arden, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely, with everything I've written, I do it unintentionally. Like as I write through, I usually have the beginning, middle, and the end planned out, and then I just kind of fill in as I go. And a lot of times, outside characters will sort of get involved in some of these scenes, and then I'll realize, hey, these two are kind of interacting a little bit.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have a book next, and then that's how it happens. And I don't know, it's really fascinating to me how the characters seem to write the book, even though I'm the one that's doing it.
Mhm.
They're the ones driving it.
Yeah, there's something magic about that when somebody starts talking to you and you're like, oh, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
Carol, what about you?
You know, in this series, there's 4 siblings, and so I always knew that they were going to be the ones that would be the main characters in each of the books. But the family stays pretty close throughout, and so I was watching the personalities develop as I was moving through the 4 books. So by the time I, got to books 2, like 3 and 4, I felt I really, I knew the characters very well. So it was, so that gave me a lot of direction. But now that the series is over, now that the 4th book is done, now I have to start all over with like a whole new world of people. So that's kind of hard to get it all started off from nothing.
Yeah. And that beginning when you don't know them, like you
Right.
just kind of have this idea of who they are and how they might react, but you don't know them yet. So awesome. Well, ladies, it was delightful talking to you today. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us and to tell us about your stories and also tell us a little bit about the way you write your books. It's always fascinating to me to hear how other people move through their stories. So I really do appreciate you taking the time. I will make sure I pop the links for all the books in the comments. So if you haven't gotten them yet, you can grab them now. You want to grab your Dragonblade books. They are the best deal on pre-order and release. They are less than a bad cup of coffee. So there is no barrier to entry. But if you don't get them, then you can always read in Kindle Unlimited, which is, I'm reading Kindle Unlimited all the time now. So, all right. Awesome. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.